Is the day after Chicago, and before we get into your comments from yesterday's video, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Bears fans. I don't think I properly congratulated Chicago's football team yesterday for the job that they did. That was, I've been calling them fraudulent all year up until that point that I thought they were, but something's changed since Trubisky came back as being the starter for this team. So hats off to you guys for coming into our stadium and owning us, which is just something that keeps happening. So thank you for the comments, everybody, yesterday. There was a lot this time. Wow. I can't get to everybody because I want to keep this short. But Packers fans, Bears fans, Lions fans, if you find this video, let me know who else on YouTube does like channels for your team or does podcasts for your team. I'm interested in, getting to know more about what goes on in, Chicago, Detroit, and Green Bay, just the whole NFC North division. I think it'd be a really awesome thing to sort of just get into, if you will. So leave a comment, leave a link. Let me know somebody that I should watch or listen to. So let's get right into your comments, and let's do this quick so that this isn't a half hour long. So first comment comes from Doug Lash. They say it's far easier to replace a rigid, stiff quarterback than it is to rebuild a weak offensive line. And this taps into one of the critiques that Kirk Cousins defenders love to dish out, and that is that, well, if we had pass protection, we'd be able to get first downs and he would be doing a lot better. To that, I say, sure, you're not wrong. But at the same time, think about what we're talking about here. We're talking about an offensive line that has not graded very well. And if I can find it, I'll put the PFF grades up on the screen for our 5 starting offensive linemen. Riley Reef and Ryan O'Neal are pretty good. Bradbury, the jury's still out on him, but I think he's trending down. Dozier is complete dog shit. And Ezra Cleveland, I don't know if he's going to stay at that position, but there's still time to figure that out. It's going to take a long time to rebuild this offensive line, and you also have to take into consideration that Riley Reef probably isn't going to be here next year. He took a pay cut to stay here. He's playing very well this season. He's probably going to get paid somewhere else next year to be a left tackle for some team that is looking to replace theirs and possibly draft a new one. So I think he's definitely gone after the season. We're not going to be able to afford him. So maybe Ezra Cleveland moves back to left tackle. Maybe we use our 14th overall pick in the first round, as is currently, on somebody like Christian Darrisaw or Rashawn Slater. Who knows? But this offensive line is going to take a long time to build. It's 5 guys, and then you got to account for injuries, and you got to account for whatever it may be, where you have to field a depth chart of offensive linemen that's going to keep you competitive. It's a project. It's going to take years. Kirk Cousins, we could switch to a new quarterback, and that's one person. I'm not saying that that a new quarterback's gonna come in through the draft like a Trey Lance or a Zach Wilson and immediately be better. It's still a crapshoot. It's a 50-50 chance when you draft a quarterback. You may not. You may get somebody good. Trevor Lawrence might be dog shit. We don't know. It's just that's the chance you got to take. Are you going to take a chance on one guy at a position, or are you going to take a chance on trying to rebuild 5 guys as fast as humanly possible when you have no cap space? We don't have a second round draft pick this year, at least not right now. So it's difficult. It's a difficult proposition to fix the offensive line and make it perfect. It's just something that's going to take a really long time. That's the reality of it. Next comment comes from Eternal Rain. Love the username. Matt Nagy is now 5-1 against Mike Zimmer. Matt LaFleur is now 3-1. What's the point of having a head coach who can't even beat his division rivals? And man, I didn't realize this until I read this comment, but 2-8 against the current head coaches of the Bears and the Packers. Yeah. And then who knows, like the Detroit Lions are going to bring somebody in, and they've got a slew of great offensive minded head coaches that are going to be available to them. Brian Dable, Arthur Smith, Eric Bieniemy. If they get one of those guys and they turn Matthew Stafford and Kenny Golladay, and maybe they go out and draft Jalen Waddle, we could be in for some trouble, because they're in a position to get an offensive minded head coach and a big impact offensive player in the first round of the draft this year. I think they're picking top 10 currently, so they could even get a new quarterback if they wanted to. They could beat us to the punch. Mike Zimmer, man, if you can't win your division, what are we doing? So that's an interesting statistic. Let me know what you think about that. Next comment comes from Terry Pitt. The team is married to Cousins, like it or not. Cap hit is too big. A Cousins divorce is impossible. I agree. It's going to take some sort of tomfoolery to be able to offload this contract. And the only way that I could see this happening is if you remember the Brock Osweiler trade that the Browns pulled off a number of years ago with the Houston Texans. That might be something that they have to look at as like a blueprint or a foundation to be able to move that contract. I don't think that they're going to bother doing this. As you know, as much as I say on this channel that I want change at, especially at the quarterback position, I think Kirk Cousins is here for at least another year. And that's just the reality of the situation. As much as I preach accepting reality and, for things and opinions that people may not like, that's an opinion that I don't like, that he's going to be around for another year or two, but it's something that I have to accept because from a mathematical standpoint against the salary cap, it's going to be hard to get rid of him. So yes, I do understand that point, that unless we pull off some amazing trade with a guy that really wants him, like a Kyle Shanahan out in San Francisco, he's probably here for at least another year. Next comment, Devin Chapman says, too many injuries with too many young guys in key roles. This team with Hunter, Pierce, Barr, and coming back with maybe another defensive tackle in the first round, then a guard in the second round, and will be very good next season. Couple of points to that statement. A lot of people do say that. There's a lot of Vikings fans that believe once we, turn the calendar over, Anthony Barr, Danielle Hunter, Michael Pierce all come back. We go through our draft. We get some solid additions at key places. Then we're going to be better and back, back to like the 2019 level of defense. If you say, I'm concerned that that's not possible. Anthony Barr is going to come back. Yes, that's fine. I have no questions about that. Danielle Hunter, we need to have a realistic discussion about whether or not he's back on this team next year, because if you believe the Ian Rappaport story from a month ago or however long that was, that he wants number one defensive end edge rusher money after coming off of neck surgery, I think the Vikings front office might hesitate on doing that, because neck surgery is nothing to scoff at. It's nothing to glean over. It's nothing to just dismiss. Michael Pierce, if we can pair him with an aggressive 3-tech on the defensive line, yeah, I think that could work out. But still, is Michael Pierce the savior of the defensive front? I don't know that he is. I think we're putting too much into that, too many eggs into that basket. So, and we don't have a second round pick, so it's going to be hard to pick a guard in the second round. Guy Black says, Zimmer never buries a team and puts them away. He never dials it up to stay aggressive. This is, in response to how conservative this offense is. And a lot of it has to do with Mike Zimmer, as I've said, and others have said, that this team is stuck in the mid 90s. If this was a 1993-94 team, this team would dominate. It would be really good. Run the ball, play defense, only throw it when you really need to, with 2 stud wide receivers that are difficult to guard. Yeah, this is a great team if you want to win the Super Bowl in the 90s. And yeah, it's ultra conservative in the first half. We run the ball way too much. They're so concerned about establishing the run. They're so concerned about just getting a first down that they're too afraid of making mistakes and taking shots down the field. And that's the kryptonite of the offense. And it's Gary Kubiak, who is stuck in the past with his just bozo play calling. The amount of 4th and 1s and 3rd and 1s and 2nd and 1s that we run straight up the middle against Hakeem Hicks and this, the Chicago Bears front 7, stupid. And the fact that they don't want to be aggressive, because Mike Zimmer's philosophy is, I need to run the ball to chew up clock, to keep my defense off the field and fresh at all times. If we do quick scoring, that puts my defense back on the field, and I don't want that. So he's against quick scoring. That's just his philosophy, because he thinks if his defense gets to rest longer, they'll win football games. And that's the problem, because that's not modern NFL thinking. Next comment comes from Randall Morgan. Kirk is probably not the guy, but we didn't do the things necessary to find out. You are correct to a point. And the point that you're correct on is that Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer refuse to fix the offensive line. This isn't a new problem, right? We all are aware that this has been a problem for a long time. The offensive line's been a problem since before Kirk Cousins got here. This isn't new with him. They just don't care. They either don't care or they don't know how to develop offensive linemen. And I know it's very hard to go out in free agency and find starting quality offensive linemen that you can afford. That's difficult to do. I understand that. But the fact that we keep shunning the positions and just hoping that we can throw whatever spare parts and Band-Aids at it and it'll work. The 2017 offensive line just overachieved. It just absolutely 100% overachieved. There's no other explanation for that. We all should have saw the writing on the wall the next season and expected for that to go into a decline, and rightfully it did. Unless we start, pushing draft capital towards the offensive line, serious draft capital towards the offensive line. I'm talking about like searching for the next Quentin Nelson, trying to find. I don't know that Garrett Bradbury is going to be the center on this team past his rookie contract. I really don't. Let's be honest. Yeah, it's going to take years to build an offensive line, and that's just the way it is. The part that I think is incorrect with that comment is that we have given him many, many, many offensive weapons. They went out and got him Irv Smith Jr., who they just refused to use until this year. I don't know why. They got him Justin Jefferson. They were like, they could have easily just said, screw you, figure it out with the guys that we have after they traded Stephon Diggs and got more defensive players in the first round. But, they made the right call and used that first round pick to replace Stephon Diggs with Justin Jefferson, and it ends up working out. So, you've got good offensive tools. I mean, Conklin looked great in the game on Sunday. He proved that we don't need Kyle Rudolph anymore. Conklin, Irv Smith Jr., Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. If we could get a more dependable wide receiver 3, yes, I could argue that is definitely something that they have screwed up on, is thinking that BC Johnson and Chad Beebe and Laquan Treadwell and all these other experiments. Aldrick Robinson was a good pickup for a while, but he didn't come back. So yeah, there's pros and cons when it comes to what did they do to give Kirk Cousins, and the number one egregious is the offensive line, as it is always. Next comment comes from Saxton Melberg. He says, "You are very stupid." I just wanted to include this because that made me laugh. I welcome differences of opinion on this channel, and I welcome people who don't agree with me. I am willing to have courteous, fact-driven discussions when it comes to this. And if you have a different viewpoint on how an offense should run, or how a defense should play, or how a draft pick should go, by all means, bring it to the table. Let's talk about it, because I am interested to know what you guys as fans are going through, because way over here, there's Vikings fans around, but there's not very many of us. So I always want to know, whatever it is. Now, just if you're gonna say stuff like that, I'm just gonna laugh at it, but it's funny. Next comment comes from Brian Henning. The run first offense is a problem. Yes, 30 carries a game, 30 touches a game for Dalvin Cook. I don't know what it is, other than the fact that that Zimmer wants to win time of possession and keep his defense off the field. It's not going to work. And the problem comes in when we have to play from behind, or we have to play catch up, and we need to go down the field and score points. Gary Kubiak is still dialing up handoffs straight up the middle. So the run first philosophy is absolutely the kryptonite of this offense, despite that being the focal point and what it was designed to do. It's going to win you some games, but it's not going to win you all of them, as we've learned. Next comment comes from Cole Wagner. When is the defensive line, aside from DJ Wonnum, going to generate pressure? Listen, never. It's not happening with these guys. Shamar Stevens and Jaleel Johnson are first and are dead last and second to dead last in generating pressure on the defensive line in this league. DJ Wonnum is a nice surprise, but he doesn't have quite the moves or the skill set, I think, to develop into a dominant pass rusher in this league. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't see it yet. Jalen Holmes, not good. Odenigbo is not good either. There is only a couple players on this team that have more than 2 sacks as of right now, and there's none that have more than 3. So our pass rush is absolutely atrocious. These last 2 games, you're going to see the opposing quarterbacks, Drew Brees and whoever it is that's going to play for Detroit, probably Stafford, if he's still healthy, have all the time in the world to throw the ball. Next comment comes from Jenner Anderson. We are getting beat in the trenches. Those issues need to be addressed. And this is the end of a comment that they left about, Kirk Cousins not being at fault for losing to like Seattle and Tennessee and Tampa Bay. That's a discussion for a different day about, blaming him for each individual loss. He definitely contributed to those losses in different ways. But at the same time, I 100% agree that we suck in the trenches. Offensive line is terrible. Defensive line is terrible. I wish it was better, but it's not. Everybody hopes that Danielle Hunter comes back and fixes everything. I am concerned that he is not coming back at all. But serious draft capital and free agent money that we have, that we can afford, is going to need to be spent on those things. And that's another issue that I have with Kirk Cousins, is that contract takes up such a high percentage of the cap space that we can't go out and get free agents to plug those spots, not good ones anyway. Next comment comes from Vaughn Joyner. Vikings defense made Trubisky look like Steve Young and Montgomery look like Emmitt Smith. The defense, I'm not worried about. The defense is going to be fine. They're going to go through growing pains. It's just the fact that the Bears own us right now. They've owned us for a couple of years. Cam Dantzler looks great. I think he's going to be a star. Jeff Gladney has played a lot better the second half of the season. I believe he's 7th out of the 16th rated rookie corners on PFF right now. The problem is the defensive line. We don't have Eric Kendricks. And Eric Wilson's playing great. We still have one of the best safety groups in the league in Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris. Although I think Anthony Harris hasn't done much of anything this year, and he should be gone next year. We're definitely not going to pay for his services because his contract demand is going to be too high. I'm not too worried about the defense because I think this is a commendable job that Mike Zimmer has done with the young guys. But still, at the same time, for being a defensive guru, for consistently getting owned for a number of years by Mitchell freaking Trubisky, yeah, Mike Zimmer has some more questions to answer than I think he really would want to. Last comment comes from Squashbox. I watch football to be entertained. After 7 years of watching this formula, it's honestly not entertaining anymore. There are rare moments when something surprising, interesting, or exciting happens. I hope we make some moves and get a fresh perspective running the team next year. And I wanted to end on this comment, number one, because this video is too long, and number two, he makes a great point. Getting a fresh perspective on this team next year is going to be vital. Next year, 2021, mark it on your calendars, your day planners, whatever it is. 2021, next season, is going to be the year decisions are made. Mike Zimmer, Rick Spielman, Kirk Cousins, they're all coming back. As much as I say I want change, it's not happening. They're coming back. That's going to happen. So next year is the prove it year. The Wilfs are going to say, hey, this sucks. Prove to me that you get these guys back off of injured reserve. You have a new set of draft picks come in. Prove to me that you guys are the right people for this job, and prove to us that last year was an anomaly because of the shortened off season, or the lack of off season, and because of all of the injuries. Prove to us that that was a fluke and that you're still the real deal. That's when we're going to find out if change is going to happen, because I think if next year is this bad or worse, it's getting blown up. So for this year, we just have to go through the growing pains, and in 2021 we will find out what changes are going to happen, if any at all. And I also want to say, yes, some of these games are very difficult to watch at times. Like, good God, like the Panthers game was just really ridiculous to stomach, and the Jaguars game, I don't want to watch games like that anymore. We gotta look like a fun NFL team. We gotta look like a 2018 Rams team or a Kansas City Chiefs team. We got to start looking like we belong in the modern era of football that is 2020. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.